For centuries, the Ottoman throne stood as the center of power, commanding armies, shaping destinies, and redrawing maps. But behind those golden doors, beyond the grand chambers where viziers bowed and treaties were signed, another empire quietly thrived, hidden, veiled, and mysterious. This was the empire behind the empire, the world of the harem. To outsiders, the word harem meant luxury and desire, but within the palace walls, it meant politics, ambition, and survival. Every glance, every whisper, could change the fate of an empire. The harem of the Ottoman Empire was not a single room of beauty, it was an entire universe, a labyrinth of marble halls, chambers, and courtyards where hundreds of women lived, from servants to queens. At its core stood the Valide Sultan, the Sultan's mother, the most powerful woman in the empire. She was the guardian of tradition, the manager of palace life, and often the invisible hand behind imperial politics. Below her were the concubines, some from noble families, others captured in war or purchased from distant lands. Yet, within the harem's walls, even a slave could rise to become a queen. One such story is that of Valide Sultan. Born as Roxalana, a Ukrainian girl who rose from captivity to capture the heart of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. Through wit, intelligence, and charm, she became the first woman in Ottoman history to marry a sultan, breaking centuries of tradition. Her letters to Suleiman, still preserved, reveal more than affection. They show a partnership of minds, a queen advising her emperor, shaping diplomacy and domestic policy. Her influence reached as far as Europe, and her legacy began what historians call the Sultanate of Women. Between the 16th and 17th centuries, the empire's destiny was often decided not in the war council, but in the harem chambers. Women of power, like Kosum Sultan, who ruled through her sons and grandsons, became kingmakers. Kosum was both loved and feared. She controlled appointments, brokered peace, and even orchestrated palace coups. For over 40 years, her influence guided the empire through turbulent times. But her end was as dramatic as her life, strangled in her chambers, betrayed by her own kin in a struggle for power. In these hidden wars, politics was played with whispers, not swords. Alliances were sealed not with ink, but with motherhood. Every child born in the harem carried the potential to shift the balance of power. No empire survives without its guardians, and in the Ottoman court, the most trusted among them were the eunuchs. Castrated young boys, often from Africa, were brought to serve in the palace. They became the bridge between two worlds, the harem and the sultan. The Chief Black Eunuch, known as the Kislar Aga, was among the empire's most powerful men. He carried secret messages, oversaw the harem's safety, and sometimes influenced state policy. His authority reached from the palace chambers to the mosques of Mecca and Medina. To him, loyalty was life. He had no family, no lineage, only duty. In many ways, he was the silent spine of the Ottoman court. While the harem ruled the heart, the viziers ruled the empire. The Grand Vizier, or the Sadrazam, was the sultan's right hand, his prime minister, his general, his mirror. In the 17th century, men like Kopruli Mehmed Pasha revived the empire from chaos. He and his descendants, known as the Kopruli family, reformed the army, strengthened the treasury, and restored discipline to the court. Their leadership delayed decline and brought decades of stability. But being Grand Vizier was as dangerous as it was powerful. One wrong word could mean execution. Their fate often rested on the sultan's mood. A gesture, a silence, or a shadow in the courtyard could seal it. Every day in the palace was a performance. At sunrise, the muezzin's call would echo over the domes, awakening a world of ritual. The Sultan bathed in rose water, dressed in silks, and began the day's audiences. Ministers presented reports, scholars read verses, poets recited odes of glory. Outside in the courtyards, janissaries drilled with precision, while diplomats waited for a glimpse of the empire's heartbeat. Even meals were political theater. Dishes of rice, lamb, and sweets were prepared in kitchens the size of palaces themselves. The Sultan ate alone, a symbol of his unmatched status, while hundreds of attendants moved in silence, their steps echoing across marble floors. Power in the Ottoman court came at a price, and it was often paid in blood. The struggle for the throne was relentless. Brothers turned against brothers. Sons were imprisoned or executed to secure the line of succession. The practice of fratricide, killing one's brothers to prevent rebellion, was codified into law. It sounds cruel today, but in an empire where civil war could destroy millions, it was seen as a grim necessity. Still, not all stories ended in death. Some princes spent their lives in the cafes, the cage, a secluded palace wing where potential heirs lived in isolation. They had everything but freedom, watching the world from behind gilded bars. Imagine their loneliness, princes born to rule, yet forgotten by history, dreaming of the empire they would never touch. As the centuries turned, the world outside the palace was changing. Europe was awakening to science, trade, and new political ideas. The Ottomans, once unstoppable, began to feel the weight of time pressing upon them. The grandeur of the harem faded, the influence of the Valide Sultan waned, and new powers, viziers, reformers, soldiers, began to shape the empire's destiny. But within the palace walls, echoes of laughter, prayers, and love remained, traces of those who lived, ruled, and dreamed behind the throne. Empires rise and fall by the sword, but they live forever through their people, the thinkers, the lovers, the dreamers, and the forgotten. Behind every ruler was a voice that whispered, a hand that guided, a heart that hoped. These were the lives behind the throne, unseen but unforgettable. And even now, as the call to prayer drifts over Istanbul's domes, their stories live on in the city's breath, a reminder that power is fleeting, but legacy is eternal.